North Carolina is a hub for abandoned places. By now, you may have heard the tale of Mowgli's Palace, a very real place with horrors on a grander scale. However, Disney's skeletons aren't the only ones in the closet. In 1970, a theme park called Land of Oz was opened in Beech Mountain, North Carolina. It wasn't the product of a big corporation, just a local attempt to bring in tourists for year-round fun. The place included not only a ski resort, but a variety of rides and roller coasters. 20,000 people came on the opening day. The park became an instant hit and was the Southeast's best attraction in its first year. Everything went downhill from there. Profits began to drop off, and owner's death complicated matters even further. Eventually, the graduation of these events forced the park to be purchased by a company called Carolina Caribbean Corp. The housing market needed a boost, and a subdivision was planned to be put in place of the attraction. There are reports that the cast of the employees who played the park's characters have been joining together for reunions since 2010. Photos from these reunions were later proven fake. The company had made another unsuccessful attempt to cover up their mistakes and clear their names. They never built that subdivision. Over the years, the park began to fall into disrepair. What made them leave? In 1975, the Emerald City section of the park suffered a fire. No one was killed or injured, but many items were damaged in the blaze. The cause? Employees. Emerald Mountain Properties, the state-operated company that ran the park, hired actual midgets to play the part of the Munchkins. All of them were illegal immigrants, which was, and still is, a perfectly acceptable practice in the South. They lived in the park's quarters and were paid next to nothing. The conditions in which they lived were deplorable. Rats regularly scurried around. Their water supply was tainted with a rusty taste, and their electricity regularly shorted. The workers demanded a raise for having to live in such circumstances. In response, they were threatened with eviction. This was unacceptable to them. In an act of retribution, they started a fire in the park's main section. Park officials quickly covered up the fire as an accident due to faulty wiring. Little did they know, they only dug themselves deeper. The attraction saw a sharp decline of visitors immediately following the incident. Something about this didn't add up. How does a fire and some unruly employees precipitate the shutdown of a park as big as the Land of Oz? And what happened to the workers? Until recently, both these questions remained unanswered. For years after the park's abandonment, groups of kids would sneak into the perimeters and wander the grounds. Their bodies would always end up in the same place, at the gate to the yellow brick road. They were severely mangled, usually to the point beyond recognition. On one occasion, a note was attached to the chest of a 17-year-old girl with a knife. It read, "Do not walk the road." Teenagers walking down the road would often record their walk on a video to capture their experience. Every device that held the recording of the yellow brick road would turn up next to the body. When checked for evidence, the recordings only showed static. A team of researchers decided to investigate the mysteries involving the yellow brick road, as this was the park's most infamous section due to all the death that had occurred behind its walls. 2 cameras placed inside of a lightly armoured car captured photo stills of the yellow brick road and sent them back to the team's computer as the car cruised along the path. The car was operated by way of remote control. This is what they found. The first shots were normal. A heavy fog permeated the air, reducing visibility. Scraggly, overgrown trees poked out of the sides of the road. Bricks from the road were missing, and the road's surface was covered with an overgrowth of weeds. One tree blocked the road, resulting in a slight delay. As the car continued to travel, shots revealed what looked like bodies dropping down from the trees. Either the bodies were preserved extremely well, or they had died recently, as almost no decomposition had taken place. They were hung by rope at the neck, but no signs of live motion were indicated by the camera's motion detection. Every one of the bodies appeared to be dressed in the outfits of the Munchkins. At first, the bodies were stagnant. Later, in the car's journey, the Munchkins' eyes began to glow with a yellow light and their face towards the car. There were no expressions of life on their faces, just illuminated eyes. Emerald City loomed in the distance. In the pictures, bloody handprints began to materialize on the car's windshield. Subsequently, the clarity of the pictures were getting reduced. The remote system allowed the utilization of windshield wipers, which obviated the problem rather quickly. When the entrance of the Emerald City was directly in front of the car, the level of disrepair became apparent. The building was still charred in some places from the fire of '75. Cracks were visible in the walls, and the once bright green paint, now dull and peeling away. That was only the tip of the iceberg. Short, plump men dressed as Munchkins stood rigidly at attention. Thin mustaches curled over their thick lips. Their arms were straight down at their sides. The employees were unnervingly alive, but they didn't seem to notice the camera. Each one of them had an unnerving, creepy smile on their face. None of the men made a move as the car passed by them. They only kept that unblinking, emotionless smile. Two piles of bodies bordered either side of the double doors. All of them were Munchkin employees. The researchers warily looked at what was in front of them, snapshot by snapshot. Snap. 3 more Munchkins appeared out of the darkness. They blankly stared at the car above the entrance of the door. A message was messily etched in the wood. Do not walk the road. Snap. 20 of the Munchkins or more appeared in front of the car. All of them were nearly identical in appearance. Approximately 2 seconds elapsed between this photo and its predecessor. At this point, the team tried to reverse the car so they could retrieve it. Snap. More bloody handprints covered the windshield through the crimson tint. Munchkins could be seen standing on the hood of the car. This was the last photograph before the camera's signal was lost. The car's remote guidance system went haywire and the expert technicians couldn't find a way to fix it. Me? There's no way in hell I'm going in there. Creatures like those need to be contained. People like me need to stay blissfully unaware.